necessary evil.
Do you accept the resignation of all of these lands? Of all the corrupt?
The rich! The oppressors of generations who have kept you down with myths of opportunity. And we give it back to you. Start by storming Blackgate and freeing the oppressed! Step forward those who would serve, for an army will be raised. The powerful will be ripped from their decadent nests and cast out into the cold world that we know and endure. Courts will be convened. Spoils will be enjoyed. Blood will be shed. This great city, it will endure. Impossible.
The Dark Knight Rises marks the end to a perfect superhero trilogy. As I already stated in my Batman Begins and Dark Knight videos, I'll just say one more time that the Dark Knight trilogy shares incredible visuals, storytelling, music, and so forth. The list goes on. And of course, this also exists in the Dark Knight Rises. But as I also did in my previous two videos, I want to hone in on one specific element that makes this film as special as it is. It's really difficult to watch heroes fail, especially Batman. As proof that I feel this way, here's my unscripted reaction during Batman's first encounter with Bane when I rewatched this film a few days ago. Please keep in mind that this is probably the 20th time I've seen this film. No, don't do it! No! No! Turn around! Break the gate open! Don't do it! Yeah, I'm dramatic. I also cry like a baby at the end of this movie. I'm a mess, but the point I'm trying to make is that nobody wants to see a hero fail, especially one such as Batman, in part because he's a physical force that we haven't seen brought down up until this point of the trilogy. His gadgets, his fighting ability, he seemed untouchable to any threat up till this point. Bruce's entire development in the first two films was built purely on mental struggle, never physical. As I explained in my Dark Knight video, we see Batman crushed and broken mentally by the Joker, and that's the point. The Joker is the furthest thing from a physical match to Bruce. The Joker breaks Bruce's spirit, but not his body, and Bane is the exact opposite.
Ah, yes! I was wondering what would break first. Your spirit or your body?
And going back as far as Batman Begins, we see Bruce as a threatening force who intimidates many of his opponents, including quite a few thugs. And he has absolutely no problem taking them down. Again, Bruce's struggles were far more mental than physical in this film, as I explained in that video as well. But Bane is a completely different animal. As he himself states to Bruce, he couldn't break Bruce's spirit. Bane doesn't have that ability, but he has no problem breaking his body. Bane makes it clear to Bruce and us in this scene that he's exclusively a physical threat to our hero, and this is really hard to watch. I'd also like to quickly revisit another point that I made in my previous Joker video. The Joker would not have worked nearly as well in Batman Begins as he does in The Dark Knight, because I explained that the Joker works better against a Bruce Wayne who has his morals fully developed. The Joker becomes most impactful in this trilogy after Bruce struggled to create his own path to define his morals and for Joker to completely test those limits. Similarly, Bane would not work nearly as well as a threat in Batman Begins or in The Dark Knight as he does in the third installment of this trilogy. because again, we've seen Bruce fail mentally in the 2 previous films, and that was powerful, but the one and only area that we haven't seen Bruce fail is physically, and I like that they waited to give us this. So what does The Dark Knight Rises teach us then on how to revive a hero, to bring them back in a way that inspires an entire audience? Well, first, you have to break the hero in order to revive them. But that's a problem because Bruce is already broken by the time The Dark Knight ends and The Dark Knight Rises begins. He's injured, he's discouraged, and it takes quite a bit of influence to even get him back in the game again by the 3rd film. So therefore, the film teaches us that in order to revive a hero, you have to take that hero that's already broken and break him again, through a force more threatening. And when that hero gets back up, then that threat breaks your hero again. And when that hero gets up again, then your threat destroys them again. That's what makes this scene of Batman vs. Bane so impactful. He destroys an already broken hero over and over again. So what happens next? Because our hero is destroyed, his back is broken. Well, then your hero's spirit must come into play. Bane thought that since he couldn't break Bruce's spirit, that he could break him physically and that would be enough. Bane, however, was wrong. What have we learned about Bruce from the first 2 films that Bane does not know? That Bruce doesn't give up, that his spirit is even stronger than Bane comments on. In Bane's mind, physicality overcomes spirit, and Bruce proves the exact opposite. Bane made a mistake by locking Bruce up and forcing him to watch his city burn on the television. This only triggered Bruce's spirit further and influences him to overcome any possible physical challenge that stood in his way. Bruce's spirit is greater than Bane realized, and it's this type of ideology that allows Bruce to climb and jump his way out of the pit. It's not Batman, it's not Bruce's theatricality, it's not his deception, it's not Bruce's physicality. It's nothing more than Bruce's will and spirit. This is what allows the Dark Knight to rise. And it's this same principle that allows our second hero to rise in this film. And I'm talking about Blake. Bruce realizes early on that Blake has the perfect spirit to become the Dark Knight. Bruce knows that physicality has nothing to do with the symbol of Batman. He's never even seen Blake in a fistfight for more than 2 seconds and has no idea the amount of strength Blake does or does not possess, and he doesn't care. Bruce still passes on the mantle of Batman to Blake. I was paying very close attention to Blake's character in this film on my latest watch, and his presence in The Dark Knight Rises is really only needed to show us that the Batman symbol can live on in this universe. Almost every scene we see of Blake is to show us, the audience, that Blake is just like Bruce. One of the first encounters with Blake is when he visits Bruce's mansion and explains to Bruce that he needs Batman to come back. He knows Bruce's secret. In this scene, Blake also explains that, again similar to Bruce, that he grew up as an isolated child without parents, and the Wayne Foundation used to fund his foster home but no longer could. Later on in the film, we see Blake having arguments with cops who lack morals, the same type of morals that Bruce and Blake share. We even see Blake kill with a gun in one scene, purely out of self-defense, but what does Blake do anyway? He tosses his gun aside and is disgusted with himself. He even has a no-guns mentality in mind. By the end of the film, Blake literally tosses his badge away because he's so fed up with the way the police do their jobs and how they blindly follow orders, as he states. That's something an inspired vigilante would probably do. Blake is basically just taking on the role of Batman when Bruce is in the pit. He's calling shots, he's figuring things out on his own. He's teaming up with Commissioner Gordon, interrogating criminals, connecting dots. He's not wearing a mask, but in a way he's acting as Batman would. And Bruce doesn't know all these things about Blake, but he knows enough to trust him with taking on the role of Batman by the end of the film. So what's my point? Why is this so important? I'm sure Blake would probably become more of a Nightwing character anyway, since they made it a point to refer to him as a Robin, but the point is that this Batman-like figure will never go away in this universe. You don't need brutal strength to rise. You need the proper spirit, and that's what Blake possesses. And that's how this film ends, with the next Dark Knight rising. It's absolutely perfect. This trilogy comes full circle by harping on the same theme that stood tall since Batman Begins, that physicality is only needed to build yourself up, but not to rise. Heroes fall so that they can learn to pick themselves back up. Being Batman is about having the proper spirit. It's about being a good person, about overcoming mental struggles and being the absolute best version of yourself that you can be. To lay your life on the line, to risk it all. And that is the lesson. That's what you need for a hero to be revived, to be reborn, to rise.